mentioned the Italian movies.
Oh yeah.
So perhaps you should do
Yes.
La Terza Madre, the Mother of Tears.
Okay.
Third mother.
So in order to discuss
Mother
this
of
movie,
Tears.
I have to give you a brief, hopefully brief, little rundown on one of the all-time greatest Italian genre filmmakers, Dario Argento. I met the man once. He gave me a big old hug. He was just like, "Oh, you come here," you know. And then he signed a movie stub ticket because I'd been at a screening of arguably
Two Mothers.
probably his most famous movie, arguably his finest. Although I would make a case that it's just as equally good as some of his other masterpieces. But it's a movie called Suspiria. If you've heard of it at all, it's because they keep threatening to remake it. Kind of hope they don't, but it's
Review
like,
Suspiria.
But Suspiria is kind of hard to just talk about because it's more of you kind of have to experience watching it to get why it's so haunting and beautifully filmed. And it's, put it this way, it has kind of the atmosphere of like an old school European fairy tale. It's set in a woman's dance academy in this sort of like almost like fairy tale forest, and it's this gorgeous castle-like building that they filmed in, and you know, all this weird sort of supernaturally stuff happens. These violent, extremely violent murders happen. One of the things about Argento is that he really doesn't pull his punches. His murder scenes, he actually plays the killer. So in any time in one of his movies, when you're seeing those black-gloved hands that you always see in giallo movies stabbing someone, it's always him. Like, he has another actor playing the killer, but in the close-ups, whenever there's like a hand strangling someone or stabbing, it's always him. He insists on this.
Someday he'll be caught as an actual serial killer.
I think he's joked about that a few times.
It's like, oh my God,
sure
we've got all these bodies
done it.
buried in his basement. He's actually been really killing people. He's been making snuff movies.
What a twist. But
that would be a Shalamalali Ding Dong.
Yeah. And maybe he can remake Suspiria. That would be a twist.
That would be... No. No.
But yeah, so anyway, the reason that Argento kind of is on the map, if you're a horror fanatic, is that it's his directing. He's often called like the Hitchcock of Italy, and you know, not facetiously. Like he's a master director. His earlier films, anyway, he would do things like rig a camera on like a 20-foot jib arm and do a scene where he'd film a murder in like one room, and then the camera in one unbroken take would go out the window, down the side of the building, swoop around, and then go into another room, and another scene would be happening there, and he would do that in one unbroken take. And it would be filmed with these gorgeous colors. Everything was Technicolor in Suspiria, reds and saturated blues and yellows. And then what you come to find out is that the reason all the craziness is happening, you know, there's scenes where like inexplicable showers of maggots rain down out of the ceiling all over the girls while they're having breakfast, and you know, like knife murders happen, and sometimes inanimate objects will kill people. And this is a really notorious murder scene where this young girl falls into a room full of barbed wire and is thrashing around in it, and just as she's about to escape, you know, this knife comes out and like hacks half of her head off.
How lovely.
Yeah, it's really violent, but I mean, the kills are always like really vivid and imaginative. You never, well, not never, but you rarely just see someone get stabbed in an Argento movie. You'll see somebody get like impaled on something really unusual and exotic.
It's like a horror version of Birdman, one long take.
Yeah, actually, there's a kill in one of his other movies where this crippled guy is in a wheelchair that's mounted on a motor that goes up the stairs. And the killer's at the bottom of the stairs, and because the guy's crippled, he can't get up and escape. So he's stuck in his chair, and the killer rigs the chair that it's going to come down, like, and the guy can't reverse it. So he's just slowly descending to the killer, and all the killer does is have this big pointy spear thing, and he just sits there and waits for him, and the guy just kind of goes, no, dead. But so anyway,
that's not just Suspiria. That's a bunch.
That was. Different movie. It's called Phenomena. known as creepers in America. Had
Creepers.
very young Jennifer Connelly, actually, who would go on to be in like Requiem for a Dream and Labyrinth. But Suspiria, anyway, is about witchcraft. The reason I'm going over all this is because you can't mention the third mother without talking about
The
Suspiria.
other two, yeah.
Suspiria
Like the
was,
sequel or something.
Argento has had a lifelong fascination with witchcraft and the supernatural.
Hey.
His movies are sometimes criticized for not making a whole lot of sense. I would say that's true. A lot of times characters say and do things that are kind of inexplicable, or they'll just get up and leave the movie and then you don't see them again, or you see them again but they're like acting like a different person or something. I would say that's kind of deliberate on Argento's part. He's going for like this sort of dream logic, fever dream sort of atmosphere. It works beautifully in Suspiria. And Suspiria is hailed as a masterpiece. Like, you know, growing up as a young horror buff, it was one of those touchstone movies that everybody just sort of agreed was, you know, a classic. And the fascinating thing is he'd always promised that this was going to be the first part of a trilogy. He was going to explore three mothers. There's one in Suspiria, who's the first mother, mother of Sai, or not
So we'll do
Sai.
all three of those movies then, yeah.
Yeah, I'll touch on the second one a bit without going too much into it. But so there's the mother of Tears, Mother of Sighs, and Mother of Darkness. I think Mother of Sighs is the one in Suspiria, and the shtick being that these three impossibly old women are from, like, you know, 600 AD in the Baltic region, and they invent witchcraft on the shores of this lake. At least that's the backstory that Argento is given, and they make a pact to live forever by, you know, feeding on the misery that they create around the world, and they all become rich and end up influencing humanity throughout history. And so the first mother's in Suspiria, and so he says, "Oh, I'm going to make two more of these. There's two more mothers."